friends. I'm Whimsical Fluid Artist Meshka. Thank you for joining me. I'm honored and excited to be kicking off this week's Fluid Art Express train. We've got a great lineup of artists, so I hope you're able to join us along the ride. Today I will be sharing with you the 13 best tips for successful pouring. So grab a pen and paper and let's get started. Tip number 13. Watch videos, take notes, ask questions, then share your art and ask for feedback. Everyone uses different recipes and has their own way of doing things. Experiment, find yours. Number 12. Get a good understanding of the properties and behaviors of acrylic paints. Understand opacities and how different paint colors and densities respond. Some colors produce cells, while others produce lacing. Sometimes we can lose a color because it's dense and sinks, while sometimes less dense paints can rise up and take over. Metallic paints are famous for this because most metallic paints are very light in density. David, the left-brained artist, has a specific gravity or density chart on his website that lists the densities of many different brands and colors that you can reference. Number 11, color choices. Get yourself a color wheel or print one from the internet and learn how to use it. There's lots of YouTube videos on how to use a color wheel. When starting out, only use 2 or 3 harmonious colors in the same color family or close to each other on a color wheel to avoid muddy colors from being made. Don't start off with too many colors. Sometimes less is more. Number 10, use neutral colors like black, white, silver, or gold to add contrast or to keep colors separated. Avoid using complementary colors together, or if you do, keep them separated with a color compatible to both colors. Complementary colors are opposite each other on the color wheel and make mud when mixed. So if I was using purple and yellow, I would maybe use a blue or a white to separate them. Number 9, pouring mediums. For starting out, I recommend making a homemade pouring medium using 80% glue and 20% water, preferably distilled water. It's not archival, but it's safe, easy, and affordable, and you can achieve great results. Once you're ready to take your art to the next level, you can move up to better quality pouring mediums. And make sure all your paints are mixed with the same pouring medium. Many different pouring mediums don't play well together, and negative reactions such as flocculation and cracking can occur. Using the same pouring medium also helps ensure all the colors dry at the same rate, which helps to avoid cracking. Number 8, make sure your canvas is level, both from left to right and from top to bottom. If you are moving your canvas somewhere else to dry, make sure that your particular canvas is level in that spot. Every canvas is different and some of them may have a slight warp, so you have to check every canvas each time. Number 7, use the correct amount of paint. Too much paint means you have to remove some, which can overwork your paint if it's stretched too much, or you can lose parts of your composition that you want to keep. If you leave too much paint on the surface, it can crack, and not enough paint, and you have difficulty getting coverage on your whole canvas. This can overwork and overstretch your paint, trying to reach the final corners or edges, destroying your composition and can create mud from colors blending too much. It's best to measure paint by volume so that we will have the same amount of paint, because different pigments have different weights, which would result in different amounts of paint if we measured by weight. To calculate the appropriate amount of paint you will need, you will have to determine what consistency paint you will be using. For thin consistency paint that doesn't leave a mound, multiply the length of your canvas, include in the sides by the width of your canvas, include in the sides, and divide it by 28 for the total number of ounces of paint you'll need. For an average or medium consistency paint that leaves a small mound, or a small mound on a mound that quickly disappears, you multiply the length by the width and divide it by 26 for the total amount of ounces needed. And for a thicker consistency that leaves a mound on a mound that stays up for a second or two before disappearing, you multiply the length by the width and divide it by 24 to get the total number of ounces needed. So for thin paint, divide by 28. Medium or average consistency, divide by 26. And for thick consistency, divide by 24. Tip number 6. Cover your painting with a box or plastic bin or something while drying to keep bugs, dust, lint, hairs, and pets out of your painting. This will also help protect it from air currents from heat and air conditioner vents or fans that can crack the painting. Covering it also helps slow the drying time, which helps to prevent cracking. Tip number 5. Stay focused on one technique and recipe at a time. It may take you a few times to get everything right, which brings me to my next tip. Number 4. Tweak one thing at a time until you find what works for you and what doesn't. Don't be changing too many things at once or trying 100 different recipes or techniques. Find a couple artists whose style you like and try to replicate everything as exactly as possible. Remember, there's lots of variables involved, including temperature and humidity. So try to match exactly what they are doing and using. You may need to make some adjustments to the amount of products you're using. For example, they may be in a cooler, drier climate and may need to add a bit of water to their paint to bring it to the right consistency. But your paint might already be good without adding any water. The consistency matters more than the amount of products you add to it. Tip number 3. Too much gloss. Different brands of paint have different finishes. Some dry matte, some have a satin finish, some dry kind of glossy, while others are very glossy. Using different brands of paints with different finishes can help produce cells naturally using the hydrophobic effect. Different brands and finishes have different ingredients that can interact differently with other paints, repelling or pushing them away, creating cells. But if you have too much gloss in your pour, it's too slippery and unstable for the cells to hold up, and they will distort or disappear. Tip number 2, consistency matters. Some techniques may be a little forgiven if your paint consistencies are a bit off, especially if they are consistently off together. Like, for example, if they're all a little bit too thick or all a little bit too thin. But for most techniques, you need your paints to flow at the same rate. You can download a copy of my paint consistency guide from the files section at the top of either of my 2 Facebook groups, WhimsicalFluidArtistMeshka or Fluid Art, which can help you get your paint the correct consistency for whatever technique you're doing, regardless of the pouring medium you are using. You may need a medium to thicken your paint for certain techniques like the bloom and bloom swipe. For that, I recommend using something like Golden's High Solid Gel in matte or gloss, Amsterdam Thickening Medium, Liquitex Heavy Gel Medium, or Liquitex Liquithick to thicken your paint. And the number one most important tip I can give you is to take copious notes regarding every detail about your pour. Video yourself if possible. Record the following information for each pour: the date, room temperature, humidity, canvas size and brand, technique used, if and how and with what the surface was prepped. Was this poured over a previous pour? And if so, how long did it dry? And did you gesso before repainting? Was the canvas dry? Or did you use a base coat or puddle or pillow or extra paint as flow extender? Record the paints used, the brands, colors, opacity, and density if known. Record if and how much water was added and what type. Was it tap, distilled, filtered, and to which colors you added the water? Which pouring medium was used, or if also using paint which was mixed with a different pouring medium. Any mediums or additives used. What was added to what and the amount. What type of oil and how much was added and to what colors. How you dispersed your pigments. What was the consistency? Describe it. Did it leave a mound on a mound that stayed up for 1, 2, or 3 seconds? Or did it quickly disappear? Did you use old paint that's been sitting around? Did you do a drip test to ensure all colors were the correct and same consistency? Record the amount of paint used by volume. The order or how the paint was layered or applied. Was it layered clean or dirty? Close to the canvas or from up high? Did you lay the paint in a specific way or pattern? Did you change direction pouring or wander? Did you pour from up high or close to the canvas? The size of the cup or split cup that you used. Did you spray the inside of your cup with anything? The exact tools used. Did you use a balloon or an inflated glove? A piece of cardboard, plastic, wet or dry paper towel to swipe? How and what you used to wreck it. Did you use a skewer, a marble, a comb, etc.? The length and size of chain or beads or yarn, the particular palette knife or tool you used. Did you quickly swipe or did you take your time? Did you wiggle your swipe tool or go straight? With what or how did you blow it? With a straw, a mini blower, with or without what attachment? By mouth or by hairdryer, and which one? How did you tilt or spin it? Did you use corner catchers? The order you tilted the paint off the corners. If you brought the weight of the paint back to the center after going off each corner. Did you use a needle or skewer or fine mist of alcohol or a torch or a heat gun to pop the air bubbles? Or did you tap your canvas to pop the bubbles? Did you cover your painting while it dried? Did you make mud? If so, what colors caused it? Did you use the right amount of paint? Too much or too little? Was the paint, base, puddle, or pillow too thick or too thin? Did you go back after a few minutes to remove the paint drips from the bottom edge of the canvas a few times to prevent the paint drips from pulling your paint over the edge? Did you wear gloves? This could explain if oils from your hands touched the surface and repelled paint. How did it dry? Was it level? Or did paint run off one side? Or did it drip from all sides, indicating too much paint was left on the surface? Keep track of what worked and what didn't. Record your observations you made during and after the pour, and about how it dried. All these things can help you figure out what you could be doing differently to help you achieve the results you want. And remember, sometimes you will get different results than someone else doing everything as close as possible to them because there are many factors involved, including experience. Sometimes you need exactly all the same things, while other times you can make substitutions with great success. It's all about trial and error, keeping notes, and finding what works best for you. There's a lot to learn. This isn't as simple as it looks. Practice makes perfect. Experiment and have fun. Make some new discoveries. Ask for help. Above all, learn from your fails. Enjoy the process, the wins, and the journey. I hope you found this information helpful. In the description, you can find links to my Facebook groups, my popular videos, my discount affiliate links, and different ways you can follow me. And if you haven't yet, please tap on the subscribe button and click the bell to follow me for more tutorials, new techniques, twists on existing techniques, experiments, and color inspiration videos. The Fluid Art Express train's next stop is Wombat from Venom Fluid Art. Go check that channel out. Loads of talent, inspiration, and fun. Following Wombat, we've got the lovely Christy from Creations by Christy. Then the talented Shannon from Shan B Fluid Art. Then our beloved Bubbles from Venom Fluid Art. And finally, the very talented Tony and Kat from the Hippydippy Painterman. That's all for today. I thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you're able to stick around for the rest of the train ride. We've got some great content coming up from some fabulous artists, and if you aren't familiar with them all, I encourage you to check out their channels. There's lots of great content. Thanks so much for joining me. I hope you have a great day.